Thank you for joining us this Saturday morning.
It's not good to be violent. You said you were going to beat me.
I'm sure you didn't hear anything. Thank you for being with us this second day of October. Yesterday marked another Independence Day for Nigeria. It's 61st, and in the President's Independence Day message, he did say that the last 18 months have been the most trying time in Nigeria's history. But he was also pleased to note that Nigerians still had this can-do spirit, and this is what has kept us together. And he also expressed his hope that this will continue to keep us together.
And he also
as one nation.
Mentioned the fact that he's going to drive more youth inclusion in government as a person. He said, I promise to do.
Very encouraging. Because the youth have a lot to say about Nigeria.
Certainly.
Well, don't forget that there is Nigeria and there is Niger.
Interesting.
That keeps coming up. Well, to look at Nigeria at 61 with us this morning, it's my pleasure to welcome, joining us via Zoom, an agricultural consultant and octogenarian, Mr. Stephen Olaleri Adegoke. Good morning. We also have, also joining us via Zoom, Mr. Abdulrazak Bello Bakindo, a veteran journalist and head of media, Nigeria Governors Forum. Good morning.
Thanks for having me on the program.
Okay, our Zoom guests will join us as we progress, but we have in the studio Mr. Akinleye Olu Phillips, who is franchise holder, Intercontinental Spelling Bee. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me here.
Well, they say a bird in hand. So let's start with the bird I have in my hand. 61 years of independence. How do you assess our leadership since then, since 1960 up to this point?
Basically, assessing the leadership comes from the point of how we as a people had seen leadership itself. Because the truth is, if I'm going to access it, I would not score as well, because our leadership has not been intentional as to what it takes to be a leader and what it takes to actually lead the people.
When you say it's not been intentional, my apologies, Alero. It's not been intentional, what does that mean?
Yeah, because when you're coming to lead the people, there has to be what you're leading them about or leading them into. What are they leading us into as a nation? Who are we as a nation to even start with? What do we represent? What do we stand for? What is Nigeria? Like she rightly said, the spirit of Nigeria. People talk about Nigeria these days and Nigeria. It's like we're having two different things now. So there's a lot of things going on that I feel I pity the leadership themselves, because unfortunately I think they also have not come to full grasp of who we are socially and what we are as a people and what we want to achieve as a people. So until that is understood, until that is known, only then can the leader say, okay, this is where we are going, or this is what we should do to get to where we're going.
For a country that is so blessed, we don't seem to have done much with our blessings, do we?
Yes. Yes, we have not done much with it, because it boils down to identity. If you do not know who you are, it's very difficult to know where you're going, because as a nation, we just came together. That's why we keep talking about restructuring. After restructuring, there's something we need to do again, which is social re-engineering. Because our social fabrics now, everybody's just doing what they want or what they think is right. So even if we are clamoring for, let's restructure, let's understand this concept called Nigeria, let's know what is what, who is doing what. Even after that, our social fabrics is gone too low. Things have changed totally. So we need to do a lot of work at that level as well.
That perhaps underscores your interest in children, because, anyway, we'll come back to that. But we have with us, two other people joining us in the virtual space. Let me begin, with our virtual space with Bello Bakindo. He is a veteran journalist, and so speak to us about what you know, what you have found out over the years, especially in the course of doing your job as a journalist, historian. You also are a researcher and things like that. From your findings, from your reportage, from your research, what are the things that you think we may have been missing out on?
I think the missing link, as far as I'm concerned, is in capacity development. You know, human capacity has been neglected over the years. We have looked at national development only in terms of providing infrastructure, which happens to be one aspect that may constitute development, but is not entirely, useful when you look at the kind of country we live in. Nigeria today is not the country we dream of, because the youth in Nigeria have not properly, aggregated their potential and made use of it to, contribute to national development. And that is one, very, very integral missing link that I find very difficult to explain. The other thing is, the rural development that we have seen over the years have virtually neglected the principal and critical components of development. That is, provision of healthcare, provision of education, provision of, rural amenities, and the improvement of agriculture. Usually when governments talk about, development in rural areas, they think they are providing a bridge that will take you from point A to B. Would have been development. No, it's not. There are lots and lots. In a country where close to 80% of the population is under 35, what you need to do is harness the aggregate potential of this large population and bring them into use so that Nigeria can develop, so that the human beings within Nigeria can see the reason to, advance every cause that they find as an endeavor and make it, help the country. But over the years, I think these have not been aggregated, and that has led to where we are today, which is a colossal, failure, if I may describe it.
You referenced something quite important when you talked about the leaders, what they do, pretty much giving, forgive me for the use of your word, no pun intended, just giving biscuits to rural dwellers, thinking it's just a bridge they are creating for them. But that falls to leadership. And interestingly, you've been working with leaders, a class of leaders, subnational leaders for a while now. You may not want to speak specifically to this, but if you can speak generically to what are the thinking, what's the thinking in the minds of that class of leaders that you have found over the years, even whether it's pre-Fourth Republic or even in this Fourth Republic? What are some of the things that you have found in the class of leaders that you happen to work with?
Yes, Tayo, one of the things I must say here, without prejudice to the people I work with, is that leaders have virtually, thrown their arms in the air in surrender. Because leaders cannot necessarily function without the assistance of the led. The led in this country have simply sat back and looked at leadership as the provider and be-all and of everything, which to a large extent, negates the idea of national development. The leaders, I've seen improvement in the quality of leadership that has taken this country to where we are. I have seen that the debate among leaders has improved, geometrically. But whatever the leaders want to do, they need the assistance of the led. And the led must see and also accept the responsibility of being part of this country and being part of the people that will provide the solutions that we need to move our country forward. Unfortunately, we have a group of people in this country who happen to be, the led, who would just sit back and think that the leader is not doing anything just because, things are not, materializing the way they expected. Your expectations, if they are not managed, will definitely lead to failure, whether the leader is so good or whether the leader is, very progressive or not. The point is the people who are being led must also see that this country belongs to them and they want to contribute to the leadership and want to contribute to the development of the country, whether leadership points at them or not. Unfortunately, a lot of people just sit back and think that, oh, the leaders will do everything. And things. For instance, if you look at the traffic situation in Nigeria, for instance, now we're talking about urban development, you discover that the most educated people are the most consistent violators of traffic. And if you are educated and a role model, and you continue to violate traffic rules, what do you expect of the people who look up to you? They will just violate traffic rules and believe that it's the right thing to do.
Well,
so I think...
You're speaking to another class of people, Mr. Bill Barkin, but we'll come back to that one. Let's engage Mr. Adegoke. Interestingly, he started working before Nigeria became independent, because I had to look at a number of things. But, so, Mr. Adegoke, speak to us. What's the shortfall that you think we have had over the years in the area of leadership in the country?
Well, thank you. The leadership in Nigeria, as we have it, from the beginning of independence, we had series of leadership. There were some leaders that made themselves leaders. They prepared from the beginning of their lives to be leaders, and some had leadership thrust upon them. By their now, like in the Western region, we had Papa Awolowo, a wonderful leader, a sage, and he prepared himself as a leader. He prepared, he knew what he wanted to do for the people, and he did it. Like in the agriculture as an important issue, from the farm settlement as a good example. The farm settlements of those days were made to make millionaires of farmers. And it started very well. Then catapult of projects. When other people came, they just left it off like that. There are some leaders who had leadership trust on them because of their position. As from 15th of January 1966, there came the military. Some of them probably had leadership trust on them because of their position in the army. So there was little they could do except what the army says they should do. This is important. Now, if we go a little outside Nigeria, we think of a person like Dr. Nkrumah. You see that he was so prepared for leadership, and he did a lot for his small country, Ghana. Here in Nigeria, we can pinpoint those two people, those of the leaders who prepared for us and who worked for us, and they were successful. Awolowo, Azikwe, Sadana, they did all they could. But since January 1966, there have been a series of types of leadership, so much that the people we are more or less disillusioned, because much of what we expected from January 1966 did not come as we wanted.
Well,
yes.
Apologies. You heard Mr. Bill Barkindo say the other time that sometimes the challenge is with the followership. The people themselves need to get involved in the process, as opposed to just waiting for the leaders to do everything for them. Do you agree with him? Isn't there something that the followers, the people that are being led themselves, can do to ensure that the leaders do what is expected of them?
It is the leader that to ginger them up. The leaders have a lot to do to carry the people along. If the leader is charismatic, like some of our past leaders, the followers will follow. They will educate us. They will give us what we need to know that this is a good leader and this is somebody who wants to help us. If we sit down at home and we find that leaders are people who are gallivanting, we will see that. But a leader who is charismatic and who goes into people through education, through the media, through other sources that make the people know that we must follow them, we are going to follow. No, there's nobody that is just sitting down there for nothing. But we want leaders that will give us the leadership, the type we want, and we are going to follow.
Yeah. Mr. Lou Phillips, still about this leadership and followership. Mr. Bakindo gave the example of traffic. If the policeman who is supposed to ensure that you stay in line when there's traffic jam is just there to collect some money from you and let you break the law, how is your mind going to be focused on keeping the law when you know that all you have to do is grease a palm or two and you can continue breaking the law, you know, till you get to where you're going? And that is, of course, leadership by security agencies.
Exactly. Is it like Dr. Bakindo said and what Pa Stephen just said? You see, tying it together. You see, the thing is, leadership and the followership. There's this thin line when there's no trust. Like you said also, the power of oracy, the power of being charismatic. Now, the most important thing is trust. Can the people trust you not to want to follow you? And the policeman on the road also has some set of leaders within their force. Mm-hmm. So all this thing trickles down. So when people say, oh, the led two are not doing well, they're just sitting back and all that, it is true. The led cannot do anything. It still goes back to leadership. You have to lead by example. People must see you and trust you, such that when you throw out rules and regulation, the rules and regulation, people will follow based on what they see about you, what they know about you, and what they trust about you. So if you're not leading well, people will just like, okay, you're telling us to do this, you're doing something else. They are busy watching you.
But there is a constitutional responsibility of calling leaders to account by the followers.
Okay, now that comes to where...
On paper.
Because I'm going to say that now. What strength does the populace in Nigeria, the power, how strong is our power as a people? Is our power to vote very strong? Do we determine who becomes leaders within our... Because that's where we now said, okay, our constitutional power, we can exercise it that, okay, you didn't do right. We call you, you didn't respond to us. Don't worry. We'll wait for when our own power can determine who's going to lead us. Until that starts happening, we'll still be having all this. Because the truth is, leadership is not something you just wake up because you desire the title. Today, presently, I'm sorry to most leaders, there are good leaders out there, but people today want to be leaders because of the title that is sitting on it.
Now, Mr. Bakindo, let me take it somewhere else entirely from what you said earlier. You mentioned health specifically. And I want to state that once upon a time, the UCH, the University College Hospital in Ibadan, was the best hospital in West Africa, among the best in the world. The University of Ibadan was top 40 university in the world. The naira was selling at, the dollar was selling at 68 kobo once upon a time in this same country called Nigeria. So where did we drop the ball that things are the way they are now?
I would say there is a total, collapse of professions as far as Nigeria is concerned. When you look at the health sector, the days when our health sector was manageable, we would want to align it with the, rise of population explosion, which may not necessarily fit in. The day when our educational institutions were some of the best in the world would also be associated with the balkanization of the educational system, which would also not totally fit in. And at the same time, you would see that most of the professions have completely degenerated because of the quest for lucre among people, among Nigerians. most Nigerians would not do their job if money is not involved. And a lot of people seek professions where they could easily maximize on the opportunities of those professions to be rich and abandon the ethics of those professions. I'm glad you didn't mention journalism, because I'm a journalist. And I know how much journalism generated from the top-level journalism we used to practice to what it is today. Now, the point is this. In a society where everybody enjoys this latitude of impunity, there is hardly any reason why anybody would want to be straight up and do the right thing. And that is where we find ourselves today. If you look at how people move from Nigeria to a country like Niger to seek healthcare, you will know that the medical profession has completely collapsed. If you see how people move from Nigeria to Benin Republic to go and acquire a degree in 1 year instead of 4 years, you will know that the people who manage education in Nigeria have also abdicated their responsibilities. So I think the general thing is that Nigeria needs a re-engineering of its, cultural values, so that we can return to the days of yore when people restricted themselves to the dictates of those professions that they practiced and did very well in it. Today they don't. People just think of making money. People just think of getting money to go to an Owambe party and spray, regardless of where they got the money. And people don't.
It sounds to me like you're trying to absolve the leaders as much as possible. That's the way it's coming across to me right now. Are you absolving our leaders of any responsibility or culpability in all of these?
How many leaders do we have in a country of 200 million people? These leaders are only about 50. If we look at the governors, there are 36 of them, and then the ministers, another 42 of them, and then the president and the vice president. We're completely looking away from where the problem is. No matter how hard you try, if the cultural values of people are not respected.
You have looked away from the heads of the ministries, departments, and agencies that are in hundreds.
And the heads of families, including yourself. You are a leader in your home, Mr. Bakindo.
So, my question for you on this one is, if there is no leader, there is no follower. I mean, it is clear. And Mr. Oluphilip said something the other time. There is a need for the follower to know where he or she is being led to. So in terms of leading, we don't have rulers. Unless you're saying that we don't have leaders, we have rulers. If we have rulers, we know that they're just there to maintain status quo. But if we have leaders, they're supposed to lead us into a trajectory. So in terms of that leadership, are you absolving them of saying, look, because if they're leading us, we need to know to where, or where to are they leading us? What is Nigeria known for instance? Just an instance. What do you make of that?
I would like to say that we should look at this in a pro rata format, like the ratio. Let's look at the ratio of people who do the right things and the ratio of people who do the wrong things. I think majority of Nigerians today, including the leaders, are also followers at some level. So most Nigerians would rather do the wrong things and get away with it than follow whatever leaders, say. So I'm not absolving leaders of their responsibilities in any way. But I'm saying that we have the power of number to completely, deny leaders this opportunity to continue to lead us astray. Because if we allow the thugs among us to rule us or to decide for us what should be or what should not be, then we are all abdicating our responsibility as a people and blaming the leaders, a small group of people, for our frailties. Okay. And I'm not saying that the leaders are leading us right. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we should seize the power to reclaim our country. And that's one thing that we are not facing. We allow people to just do things and we think it is right just because they sit in a certain position. That's not right.
Okay. Well, Mr. Adegoke, I'd like you, if you don't mind, there is something that Mr. Bello Barkindo said the other time when he mentioned agriculture. Let's take an instance. Maybe you've talked about health the other time. I'm a kind of agriculture champion of sorts, because we have tremendous opportunity in that regard in this country, and it's what we started with, so to speak, in the First Republic that gave us a lot of opportunity, a lot of advantage as a country, but along the line we seemed to have let it all go. Could you give us a historical trajectory from your experience, because I know you've spent almost all of your adult working life in the agricultural sector in the country. So give us an example, a perspective that people may not know. How did the agricultural sector or industry work back in time and over the years? And at what point do you think we dropped the ball, Mr. Adegoke?
Well, thank you very much. In the beginning, agriculture started where? Through education, through extension services, through good leadership of the civil service. Now, in agriculture in those days, people were being lured into it because many people thought it was a dirty job. But as soon as we realized that agriculture is itself a profession, like as an example, I was thinking that agriculture, although I had a background of farming, but I didn't know that there is a lot of learning in agriculture. And I didn't even know that there was a sort of enterprise. When I got into it, I discovered that where it is a worth of a lot of things in agriculture. Now, when I got into it, I discovered that extension services is one of the best aspects. This is where you send officers into the field to deal with farmers, with new knowledge, with new crops, with new animals, with new methods of agriculture. And they did a lot. People were gingered up, farmers were gingered up, and agriculture was moving very well. There's no aspect of agriculture that you didn't have extension services. But when extension services went down, when they were stopping, when they are no more in the field, nobody was doing a lot again. Now the officers in charge in the ministry.
Just a second, Mr. Adegoke. When you talk, three times you have mentioned extension services. What does that mean?
Yeah. Extension services is the revival group, sort of. They are taught to go to the field to take new inventions, new crops, new animals to the farmers in the field, to show them the method, to show them the new crops, to show them the new animals, and the methods you are going to take to rear your animal. So these were many in those days, and they are the people who take the leadership in the revival of farming. The farmer become better, modern, and they were taking the new methods one. So they are the people specially trained to teach farmers in the field.
What point then did we lose this one? Because I remember, when we talked about this, first of all, tell us, because today it doesn't look to me like the average young person is interested in agriculture. It doesn't look appealing. It doesn't look exciting anymore. And it's still in the minds of many that when you talk about agriculture, you're talking about farming. You're talking about holding a hoe and cutlass. Many are talking about mechanized farming and all of that now, but with the opportunity that we have in the agricultural sector, the Vice President once said that the livestock sector alone has a value chain worth 30 trillion naira. Just the livestock sector alone. And we're not talking about crops and so many others like that. So the question that I want to ask you is, what are the things, what were the opportunities for new entrants? How did you get into agriculture, for instance? And do you think those things are there now? If they are not, what happened?
Well, there are opportunities in agriculture. And the way to know it, and the way to tell its farmers is the way I have said that. The government has to send the officers to the field to let people know that there are opportunities in agriculture, in livestock, for that matter. You have piggery, you have the cattle, you have the poultry, You have a lot of rabbitry and a lot of things like that. Now, in the crop agronomic sector, you have your crops to grow, get your crops stored, get your crops processed, get your crop to the market. These are opportunities, and every aspect of it is an enterprise. The farmer plants.
What was the role of the leaders at the time? Who were the leaders who were in charge of leading this process at the time? And what happened to the systems that helped them? For instance, the governors of those days, what was their role? Okay, well, First Republic, we didn't have governors. But the premier or whoever the leaders were at the time, what were their roles, in those days in getting us to, the level that we got to? I mean, you have tried to give the example of the Western region, for instance. What was the role of the leadership at that time?
Well, the government of those days, they make use of their civil servants a lot. And the civil servants, they were so dedicated that some of them, these are the civil servants that will send people to the field. There's nothing we can do other than to rely on the permanent civil servants. These are the people who are so dedicated. Some of them are there that even carry their files to their homes. When they do a lot in the office, they carry the rest to their homes. When they get home, there was no light. There were some of them that would put their car light to sign some paper. And when they come to the office the next day, they send out to the field. And when we get to the field, we get the news going to the farmer.
That's interesting. When you say that the civil servants were that effective at the time, many people believe today that the civil servants are the problem of government, that they're not the one, they're the ones that are not, helping or allowing things to work the way they should. So I don't understand what happened. At what point did we drop the ball then?
Well, the civil servants of those days were dedicated until a particular period. When some government, one particular government came and retrenched them unexpectedly. They sacked the government, sacked the legislators, all along with the civil servants. The civil servants now found a shock because they were not prepared for such a sack. And now they started to know that, okay, the remaining civil servants now say that, oh, if they could be sacked this way, they should have joined the current legislators, catching money here, catching money there. So they started to think otherwise. And the civil servants begin to join them. You can't beat them, they join them. They were no more dedicated. And this was the beginning of the evil in the spread of agriculture and the spread of beliefs of agriculture. People were disillusioned. They were no more as dedicated as before. But before then, people were so dedicated, and dues, salaries were paid as at one due in those days. But now, it's normal. You see pensioners go home without a couple, and they go back a year or two. Some of them go and die. So the people remaining behind, they now see that, okay, they must find something to do. They don't give their attention anymore, not 100% of their attention anymore. Now,
Mr. Makindo, let me take you back to something you said earlier about professionals and how they perform. How well do you think the quota system / federal character system has helped us in our development?
It has not helped us at all, I must tell you. It has not helped us at all. All human beings are born with the same capacity and potential. And for anybody to think that by allocating quotas to certain sections of the country just to meet up with the rest of the country, that person is doing the country a disservice. And I mean, I was just, ruminating over this idea that this very simplistic rhetoric that civil servants were retrenched and therefore they decided to start stealing money. I think that is a narrative that has been told over and over again, and it is becoming sacrosanct to Nigerians. It is not. Civil servants have been retrenched everywhere in the world, and they did not change their attitude to become thieves just because they are not sure of tomorrow. The point is, Nigerian civil servants from days before have not made it possible for anybody to retire and enjoy his retirement benefits. They have all the while continued to look away from the fact that there is obviously a time when you stop work and stay at home and still continue to benefit from the work that you had done.
How then do you explain, Mr. Barkindo, how then do you explain pensioners not getting paid as at when due?
I can't explain that actually, because it's something that has become pervasive. And it's amazing that the same civil servants who today know that civil servants are not being paid after retirement are still perpetuating the same attitudes, where they are not trying to correct, the fault lines of the pension system.
And you still don't see that as a responsibility of those leaders who are in charge of things right now.
No. Look at it this way. Whatever you think, whoever you think is a leader today is working together with civil servants who are helping him to deny their fellow citizens.
Okay, we're running out of time, Mr. Barkindo, but let me come to you, Mr. Olu-Phillips. All of these issues are going on now, and it is most certainly disturbing and disheartening. You're a young man yourself, so you can tell how encouraging or not these things are. You are interested in children being led, being programmed or produced, so to speak, into leadership. And that's one of the things that you say you do with the Intercontinental Spelling Bee, which franchise you hold in Nigeria. So I'm just wondering, with all of these things happening, how are we able to, policy-wise, law-wise, structure-wise, system-wise, preparing the children today for the future that is definitely certain?
Thank you very much. From all I've heard from Pastor Stephen and Mr. Barkindo, you could see that what we're busy chasing, we're just looking at branches of all the issues we're having. We will keep talking from now till eternity. There will never be any solution. If the foundation be destroyed, there's nothing anybody can do. Naturally, we're talking of the bedrock of systems. When the system has collapsed, what else do you want? You will have all these issues coming up back and forth. So what I am saying is, let's go back to check the system. Let's build it. And that's why I keep saying it's leadership that can make that work. And just like Madam Alero said, it's from the home front. The father is the leader in the house. What values does it carry? Now, when I say it trickles from the top, when we have leadership in the society who actually knows what it is to lead, and they are responsible enough to know that you have to be strategic. Like when I said intentional earlier on, I mean, you don't just come and say, oh, you're a leader in this area, in that area, without understanding that area itself, so that you can have solution to what you're coming to lead.
Okay. Well, just a quick one, because I know that we have to wrap up now. You undertook this spelling bee competition recently, and I found in the news that Nigeria beat India for the first time.
Yes, we did.
What happened?
That's to tell you what we have in Nigeria. The human resource is enormous, and that's why we keep saying, let's do it right. We have children that are dynamic, they are brilliant. In fact, the youth presently are so brilliant that the leaders must know that you can't just lead people when you don't have what it takes to lead them. You can't just tell them do this when you yourself do not even show it.
As they say, you have to be on top of your game to engage them.
Exactly.
Okay, well, unfortunately,
that's where we have to leave it. That's the nature of live television. We've run completely out of time. It's just left for me now to thank our virtual guests, Pastor Stephen Olalere Adegoke, agricultural consultant and octogenarian. Thank you very much for joining us, as well as Abdulrazak Bello Barkindo, veteran journalist, head of media, Nigeria Governors Forum. And we had in the studio with us in Lagos, Mr. Akinleye Olu-Phillips, franchise holder, Intercontinental Spelling Bee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you all, gentlemen, for coming to share your insights with us on Nigeria's 61st birthday. Sunrise will return in just a moment with another interesting conversation. Do join us.